You know, I really don't feel like reviewing this movie. At least, not like this. But, you know, summer being summer, I think just this once I'll make some proper arrangements so I can stomach this one a little more easier than the others. Well, this is certainly a little better, as much as I can say. Still, not good enough. Let me try something out.
Oh! What the?
Oh! Oh, it's you.
Hello?
Hey.
Yeah, I'm fine. Do I need to say anything else? Great. No, wrong show.
It's okay. I feel your pain.
Oh, okay.
So, how's America so far?
America's fine. Yeah. I particularly like the milkshakes.
Can't argue there.
And they don't bring all the boys to the yard.
No, there's a big film that just came out this weekend.
Yes, that's right.
I think I know what we're here to talk about.
We are here to talk about the BFG.
Mm-hmm. This is the collectible ticket they gave us at the theater. And, well, I guess the first thing to start off with is, you remember reading the novel from 1982?
I didn't read the novel, I'm afraid, but I did read glimpses of it before I came to see this one. What I did see was the 1989 television film made in the UK by Cosgrove Hall. You know, which starred David Jason as the BFG, and it's a particularly memorable film with lots of scary moments. In fact, there's a little bit at the very start of the film where this owl screeches, and I swear to God, I'd never switched the video off so quickly before in my life.
Yeah, because you showed me that movie when I was here, and I have to admit, for anime adaptation, spoiler alert, there has never been a Roald Dahl adaptation, or in this case, an animated movie like that, on a television budget, that has made me teary-eyed at the end.
No.
And to see a big-budgeted movie with a good director attached to it, the right cast, the possibilities of interesting visuals, and absolutely do nothing in the end,
Yeah.
is a little bit of a shame.
Yeah, it wasn't a particularly good
My
movie, the
goodness.
new one.
Where should we begin with this one?
Well, let's begin by talking about how disappointed we were in the fact that we were expecting so much better because it had two words attached to it, which are quite a big deal.
Mhm.
Disney and Steven Spielberg, the very first film that Steven Spielberg directed for a Disney film.
Exactly. I mean, I like his work. He's one of my favorite directors. You know, E.T., probably my second favorite film. And it's ironic because the same year BFG was published, E.T. came out. So there's some weird connections, similarities. But when I was seeing this movie, I wasn't thinking of Roald Dahl adaptation. What kept popping in my mind was Hook. Just that lovable, lighthearted, campy route. But even with Hook, it knew when to go dark in spots.
Yeah, it did have its important moments.
The psychological aspects of Captain Hook, you know, the possibility of characters actually getting killed. You actually see a kid getting killed at one point near the end.
Yeah.
And I think with this movie, it had the right light touches in spots, but it was missing a whole lot of that darkness.
Yeah, there was virtually no darkness. The only darkness element was the fact that there are giants that eat people.
But you don't even see them eating to begin with.
No, you don't, and it almost forces people to say, look, if you want to find a terrifying current, somewhat adaptation of BFG, then you need to watch Attack on Titan, because that is about as close as you're going to get to the terrifying idea of giants eating people. Like, you'd have thought that with Disney, who are famous for terrifying children while also giving them happy endings and that, you would think that they would be able to cover the BFG in as horrifically dramatic a fashion as could possibly be, with giving the content of the book.
Because I was reading the novel on the way down, and I haven't read this since middle school. And I remember liking it quite a bit, even though I skimmed over a couple of spots. But when you're a kid, you skim over a couple of details and things. When I was reading on the way down, I completely forgot about all that darkness and stuff, the detail of, what giants see and people, the Turks taste like turkeys and stuff like that. Which is actually pretty funny. Some of it actually is in the animated film, which I admit is pretty nice.
It is. Like some of them are quite new, like people from Sweden, they taste of sweet and sour. Sweet and sour. Very funny.
And that's always the important thing with Roald Dahl that I always admired as an author. He always knew how to take the darkest of realities and make it, conquerable. The fact that people can overcome anything, witches, greedy farmers, and stuff like that. But here, it's like they understood the concept, the fantasy concept, but they were really missing all those angles of what made it so interesting, and that being the giants and such. I don't want to bloom too much on the giants, but maybe we should talk about the BFG for a bit. Well, because there are some good and bad aspects. It's Mark Reliance from Bridge of Spies.
Mark Rylance, he's the BFG's design, because I will say that the motion capture used on the giants, I almost said pirates, but on the giants, it's because of you talking about Hook.
Alright, Grunt, come here, Grunt. Come here with your squirming, Grunt. We can do with your scurvy scumbers, Grunt. Arr, eat these patties, Grunt.
Now, the motion capture on the giants was very good. It's one of those films where much like Tintin and The Lord of the Rings, so the motion capture actually has a point. They're creating something that couldn't exist and make it exist in a realistic but believable sense. Like with Tintin, they created the same style of Hergé's drawings, but did it with the motion capture so that they could exist in their own world. And that's pretty much what happens with BFG. Like, it's only the giants that are like motion capture, but they're from another world, so they're in another world where the whole giant setup can exist.
And another thing too, because I've seen the trailers, and the giants kind of look like very, Game of Thrones, medieval kind of designs. But when I saw them in the movie, I was noticing like little details like, garbs and drags and stuff, and like tires and all sorts of stuff. So it's like, okay, they're homeless kind of giants. They're using garbage for display and decor. I thought that was a little creative.
It was, yeah.
But at the same time, there wasn't really anything frightening about them, because when you look at the giants in the animated adaptation, which by the way, Roald Dahl saw and applauded over.
It's one of the few films
applauded over
Roald Dahl production that Roald Dahl actually enjoyed. According to Brian Cosgrove, he actually stood up and applauded after a private screening with his family.
Because when you look at the giants in those movies, they're menacing. They're really menacing.
Like the likes of Blood Butler and Flesh Lump Eater were the sort of things that kept me awake at night.
Yeah, like they were claws, they were disformed and twisted. Those are menacing. Those are villainous giants. When you look at the giants of these, they're just tall people, and that's really about it.
Yeah, except for the BFG, they did do the effects on him really good. A lot of people, I noticed YouTube comments on the trailers, a lot of people thought that, well, he's got a tiny head, he's unrealistic. Well, in Quentin Blake's art design, he does have a smaller head and large ears and trousers that are too big, too small for him, things like that. And I know that with Quentin Blake's artwork, it's very sketchy and it's very stylized and bizarre, which does make it work. In this film, he does sort of work because, again, the motion capture has made it look believable. But as you say, the giants, because the giants' designs do not follow those of the book, which pretty much are, all the giants are virtually the same.
Yeah,
like
just
beard,
tall, beardy, beady eyes, loincloth.
And jagged teeth and that, but again, the designs are pretty creative and scary in the 90s version, and you'd have thought that Disney would have been on top with all of that. And these ones, like, in the animated film, the 90s film, some of the giants have such intimidating voices that Flesh Lump Eater, which is the leader of the giants,
the boss of the bang.
Yeah, like the ringleader of the giants. In the animated version, they slowed down voice actor Don Henderson's voice to make him much more intimidating, and normally modifying a voice sometimes doesn't work. A lot of people see through it, but when it's combined with a great design, like the Flesh Lump Eater in that film, you buy it. Here, you've got, I think, an actor from New Zealand, Jermaine something, I'm afraid I don't remember his name.
It's alright.
talking with just a deep, generic Cockney accent, and I'm thinking,
I as a boo-boo.
I as a boo-boo. Oh yes, we're really afraid of him.
Sophie, like, the girl was okay, but she wasn't memorable. I mean, in the book, there's this grandfather and granddaughter relationship between the two, and there's sparks of that here. But the one thing that made the book work is that she gets whisked away from this very lowly place. She's in an orphanage. The one who runs the place is very cruel. In her first scenes, and I should have warned, there's going to be small spoilers, nothing too big, so don't worry about it. It's a very loose story. You see her in the opening, and she's kind of running the place behind the head's back. Like, she's getting the mail, she's turning lights off, she's telling booze hounds off. It's like, wait a minute, if she really is taking control of this place in a sense,
why would you want to leave? Why would you have all of these horrible stories to tell about it?
Yeah. Oh, I was locked in the basement. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you don't buy it here. She like, I'm sure that she is a decent enough actress, but her character, Sophie, in this film did not do it for me. Like, she kept talking about how, you know, she is constantly punished by the owner of the orphanage, but she, as you say, she's effectively running the place, and she seems so insistent at the very beginning of the film, after the BFG has captured her. She seems like content, you know, hellbent, on escaping from the BFG's home. And he even forces her to dream about it, which, you know, we get an early example of how the dreams work, but you know what, we didn't need that. Because in the book, I do know some scenes from the book and the 90s film, the first glimpse we have of how dreams work is in the town before he takes her.
And they didn't show that at the beginning too. No, he just picks up a little trash can and
he knocks the trash can over.
Yeah.
Yay! How exciting. It's like in the 90s version, she's just like, she closes the curtains and all of a sudden she whizzes them open and lightning strikes because we just noticed that there is a giant shadow in the street.
That is a good sequence.
That's effective.
Just the way, because the animated version, I already commented this, he looks like the Grim Reaper, he keeps floating in the wind, there's this giant thing with a suitcase. There's a lot of mystery behind that first scene.
Yeah, and that synthesized music just makes it a million times more intense. But again, there's just no tension in this film, there's no excitement, there's no danger or feeling of hoping and praying for things to get better for these characters, because there's no conflict, there is no...
Aside from giants eating people, but again, we rarely even see that happen, minus one dream scene, and one where they're going back to Giant Country, and they see in the distance the brothers, you know, rubbing their lips or something like that.
Yeah.
There's like no indication of risk or danger. Hell, there's an entire sequence where Flesh Lump Eater, you know, supposedly thinks that he's the BFG is hiding a human, or a human being in this case.
Yeah.
And they're tearing through like his, you know, department, basement of dreams and stuff like that, which I admit, I like the design a little bit. I don't think it's too bad. Just all these, you know, shelves of dreams and stuff. But then when we see him being destroyed, there's not really much of an impact, because that whole sequence where Sophie is running around and hiding in this tree or whatever, we'll get to that in a second, hiding in this tree and running around trying to avoid getting seen by these giants, here they are, you know, tearing around, you just see them in the background, you don't see much of an impact because you're not seeing them destroying it. They're off in the foreground, your focus is on her, and the music is like a little dirty, flirty,
yeah, it's a little bit too comical under the circumstances, and, you know...
And then you have the BFG trying to whisk them out and all that sort of stuff. That should be a very intense moment. They're tearing this whole place down, looks so beautiful, and there's nothing very impacting or dramatic about it.
No, and I think one thing that really got on my nerves was the infamous scene from the book where Sophie is hiding inside a snozzcumber, and the blood buckler bites into the snozzcumber, and he very nearly swallows her until he tastes the snozzcumber and spits her out along with the snozzcumber. That is used to great effect in the 90s film, and here the BFG stops the Flesh Lump Eater now, not Bloodwater. He stops him from swallowing the snozzcumber.
Or even biting into that matter. He's like, no, it's a vegetable, you don't like it. You're right, I hate vegetables.
Yeah, it's like, that was a very dark scene from the book, and that, I imagine, anyone who's read the book would have been waiting for that scene, and for him to just, for Spielberg and Disney to tone that bit down, you sort of immediately get an idea of where the rest of the film is going.
Like, I have two theories as to why they changed that scene. Because it's a very, very crucial scene.
It is.
One is because we had the dream sequence prior, where he makes that little dream to show what happens if she's in Giant Country and she gets swallowed whole, whatever like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously to avoid redundancy of her being in the giant's mouth or something. But really have that sense of danger, really show what these things can do. Don't have like some big dream sequence. That's like a whole cop-out. Because we're expecting that over getting eaten. And second, they wanted to show the BFG being condescending, friendly and all that sort of stuff. And
yeah.
He has her back. But there really isn't much of a point, because he already took her. And here he is trying to hide her. So obviously, there's no reason for that little bit to be in there, stopping him from eating the thing.
Yeah. It's just,
Because even in the novel and the animated film, he doesn't know she's in there until the very last minute.
Yeah, and then it's too late to do anything about it because of the sheer size of the blood bottler and how he's, like, not going to listen to the runt. They never call him the runt in the 90s film, but you get an idea that this is how they treat him,
Yeah. Should we talk about Dream Country? And how it's just one giant tree from Avatar with nice rolling lights.
Well, there's not much point talking about it now. You've given the whole thing away.
Oops. Go to Animal Kingdom, you'll probably see it. There's a big tree or whatever.
A tree with Christmas lights. Dream Country.
Like, in a sense, it's a little clever, because the way the leaves blossom, it's like a little ball of light flying from it. And
granted,
it's surreal. But again, I don't think that was in the book. I know in the animated version, it was a giant landscape of like Mento's platforms and stuff.
Clouds and stars.
It was like very surreal. It was very strange. You don't know what was up or down.
Music was absolutely wonderful in that scene. But here, it's just a Christmas tree with decorations on it underneath the lake. Now that was clever,
Yeah, that I liked.
And then you're like on the other side where the dreams are. That was actually kind of clever. But we didn't get to explore enough. We just got there. BFG started collecting dreams, I guess, and then that was it, really. Interspersed with the occasional moment where Sophie would say, "Oh my!"
Because I'm watching that sequence, and the first thing that came to mind was like the Nutcracker suite from Fantasia, which in a sense it did feel. Sorry. Oh boy. Because that whole sequence is like fairies flogging and all this stuff, and that's the first thing that came to mind. But in the animated version, it kind of feels like the rite of spring, in a sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's very landscapey, it's very desolate and stuff. You're hoping for like a glimmer of hope to be in there. And again, this movie is trying to be like a very light-hearted, child-friendly, family-friendly kind of thing. And it just doesn't work because Roald Dahl knew how to walk between that line to be light and dark.
That's right.
Because when you really read those books, I don't want to say there's horrible things. No. There's stuff in there that's dark, but it's not like gruesome or god-awful or anything. There's certainly a level of ambiguity. And for this adaptation, I just really felt like, okay, we gotta adapt this, we gotta, stick to how it is. But they really don't stick to it because the director at the helm is more good at doing like the lighthearted side of childhood, the bright things, the bright scope of it. The darkness is not really all there, and I feel like a lot of that was lost after the 1980s. Because in E.T., you nearly saw E.T. die, and there was like this intense one, like you didn't know the alien was going to come back or anything on first watch. And here it's like you can sort of just go and see the characters having this little journey, and they'll just come out fine. Hell, even get to the Queen for crying out loud. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that other subplot there. Apparently, Sophie's not the first kid who's met the BFG.
Yeah.
I felt like, okay, there's a little promise there. But there wasn't much of a point to it, especially when he says, "You're the first to see me." Because that really changes the whole method of the book there.
Yeah. I also note that no giants have ever seen Dream Country or the dreams and how the dreams work. Yet they are there smashing the dreams apart in this film, so they know where the dreams are.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the whole stuff with the Snozcumber was toned down terribly. You never see how much the BFG hates
Sauce cumbers.
Yeah.
He just eats them like a stew. He doesn't mind either, which I thought was really weird.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't like him, but it was like this big funny thing where in the book he bites into a snozzcumber and he just spits it all over the place and bits are splashing everywhere. In the 90s film, David Jason, the voice actor, is doing all sorts of really strange noises on how much he really hates it. And it goes really well with the animation.
It tastes like
It's shickable.
Shickable, thank you.
And the eyes go crossed and everything like that.
Yeah.
They give it its focus, but...
I guess we should talk about good things, or at least try to find good things. I liked how they kept vocabulary.
Yeah,
The gobble funk. I liked how they kept that in. That was a little music.
They did very well with the vocabulary, yeah, and Mark Rylance did do a good job of acting out all of these lines and everything.
The better, at least they kept in the whiz poppings. I remember you were telling me if they didn't have that, we were going to walk out.
Yeah.
And I remember, it's okay, we're going to see Finding Dory later in the week, so no worries about it.
Yeah. But Sophie never did the whiz popping.
No.
She didn't drink the Frostgargle, or if she did, she didn't make any noises, I don't think.
Apparently.
She might have done, actually, I don't remember, but...
The stuff with the Queen, and without giving too much away, is kind of there. And near the tail end, they visit the Queen for help, and there's a sequence where the giant is, in Buckingham Palace. Is it Buckingham Palace?
It is Buckingham
Just
Palace.
want to make sure I'm right, because I'm not getting anything wrong. They're in Buckingham Palace, and they make him this giant breakfast, and there's some clever stuff in there, like using a pitchfork for a fork and stuff like that.
And one of these swords from the armory as a knife. Very clever.
Which is ironic because they cut a good bulk of stuff out of that sequence in the novel, like him arguing with the brigadier in the army, which was funny.
Yeah.
How could you, do you know where this place is? Oh, I don't know where it is on the map, but I've been here before and stuff, and there's a really good exchange that I'm glad they kept in the animated version.
I also like how he didn't fly in this one.
Yeah, that was...
he was able to fly like by moving his legs as if he was pedaling a bike.
That I liked, especially him jumping on little platforms there to the Stargate in the giant country.
Yeah.
That was interesting. But there are points where the film really does drag as it's trying to get in the atmosphere or the emotion, when there really isn't a lot of atmosphere or emotion to partake in.
Yeah.
Again, that scene in Buckingham Palace, it's a nice sequence, but if you just trimmed off some shots here and there, or shortened these couple of bits, you wouldn't be missing much. Just servants putting the food on the table. That really could have been cut down a little bit.
And the whole Frobscottle bit where, the whiz popping in Buckingham Palace, where the BFG is supposed to be, complaining that there is no Frobscottle for whiz popping, and he says that he can do it without, and the Queen wants him to play music.
I'll let you take this one. This was a good joke. I can't believe they cut this out.
It's how they describe, the BFG describes the whiz popping as music, and the Queen wants to hear him sing, which is what she thinks he's referring to. And then in the 90s film, I think they describe it similar in the book, but in the 90s film you just see the outside, the exterior of Buckingham Palace, this whiz-popping sound, and then a collection of car crashes with the sound of Big Ben chiming off. And at the end of it, the Queen's just sitting there without a single change of expression and just... I think, on the whole, I prefer the bagpipes.
Philip! Get the Febreze and ultra smell in here!
Bloody hell! There's a giant at the table! Can I hunt it?
Don't mind about the big giant gas! Get the smell out of here, Philip! The chandelier will never smell the same again!
At least we just find Dory.
Yeah, at least they kept the chandelier joke, but it was a little different. Oh, what was that? That was King Louis the 15th.
Yeah.
Was it 15th or 14th?
Louis the 15th.
15th, because
it might have been different in the book.
It might have been different in the book. I really was hoping this movie to really change up things a bit. I've seen Alice the Looking Glass, Warcraft, Independence Day Resurgence, and there's only 2 movies this summer which I've hold in regards as being watchable, worth seeing in theaters, and that's Civil War and Finding Dory, which we saw today.
Yes.
That was worth seeing in theaters.
It was.
That had emotion, that had heart, that knew when to be tragic and light at the same time. I was really disappointed in the BFG. I was hoping for at least to make a bit of a difference. Because this is a really slow summer so far.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, oh my goodness, I don't remember the last time it was this dead.
And it's just really irritating with the fact that, you know, you've got a film which has very little focus outside of the beginning. It's got no climax.
Oh.
And you'll know what I mean if you see it. There's virtually no climax.
Yeah, without going into deeper details, they have a little talk, they have this 2-minute battle, and then the movie just wraps up lickety-split.
That's right, and what makes things worse is you'd think with the atmosphere of the film not being there, you'd think that it would be there in the form of music. And considering the music is done by John Williams, I can't remember a single melody. That's not good.
No. All I remember is it's like a leaf slowly falling down, but the previous John Williams, he was boisterous, he was big. This is like really quiet.
Harry Potter,
ballet
Superman,
music.
Jaws, The War of the Worlds, Star Wars, Tintin, E.T. Did I say Indiana Jones?
Indiana Jones, that's another one.
Like,
even 1941 had some pretty good score. It was like, you know, the big war march.
Exactly, and this was not his finest hour, because even with the Tintin film, you can remember a number of the melodies that are in there. I could not remember one here.
No, this is a hard one for me to recommend because I really wanted to support this movie because there was some good effort going into it. It's just the output was not that good as I hoped. It's not god-awful, it's not the worst, it's just very, very torn at the moment.
Yeah, it is disappointing as well in regards to the music. It is disappointing in the fact that you can't get hold of the soundtrack to the 90s film, which is a really powerful melody.
Yeah.
But you can get the soundtrack for this one, I imagine, but you wouldn't want to because you can't remember any of it.
No. I feel bad too because the writer for this movie was Matilda Nelson. I hope I pronounced her name right. She wrote E.T. and she recently passed away this year. I'm almost wondering if this went through another rewrite, it would have been fine. But I guess maybe they were thinking, oh, we don't want to tread on her wishes, you know, we want to keep this just as it is. It would have been fine if it went through another draft. I wouldn't mind changing a few things up a bit. The scene where he gets tossed around is like a weird rugby scuttle. That could have been a little more interesting.
And then they play roller skates down the hill with the cars.
Yeah.
And Sophie's in one of them and doesn't happen to die when the cars crash into each other. That I find hard to believe.
Yeah, especially seeing one being a Volkswagen.
That is a little bit suspension of disbelief.
I don't know, got any final thoughts on this one?
Final thoughts. I would have hoped that this film would have been better, and I certainly hope that as far as the box office goes, they will learn not to release it alongside their more anticipated films, because...
If this was a Christmas release, it would have been fine.
Yeah, and like the original, and also it would probably... I've lost my trail of thought, hang on.
It's not there?
No. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, if this film had had a little more focus, it would have been fine. And I certainly hope that this doesn't mean that Disney are not going to have the faith in Steven Spielberg to try something else, because I'm sure with something else he could do better.
Yeah, he's going to do Ready Player One, and that looks promising.
Yeah, if you're going to do, you know, a film based on a British book, sometimes it can work, like the first 2 Harry Potter films, so they were directed by the American Chris
Columbus, yeah.
That's right. You know, this film, as you were saying when we saw it, it would have begged a British director like David Yates or something.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's no offence to American directors in that. I mean, if you are a big fan of the material, I mean, look at Tintin. It was Belgian, and it was done by a New Zealand producer, an American director, and it featured British actors.
Yeah.
But if you don't know it as well, it's not going to have the same impact. It's not going to work as well. But, as I keep saying, I hope that this isn't going to deter Disney from trying again, because I'm sure that Spielberg could do something much better for them, just not the BFG.
Yeah, and I think it's also in the company too, because as we were watching this movie, I was looking at the logos, and I'm not saying I'm being prejudiced or anything. First came the Disney logo. Okay, fine, this is going to be promising. Then came the Amblin logo. Yay, Spielberg! And then I saw the logo for Walden Media, and all hope started to dash. And if you don't remember, they did Narnia, Because of Winn-Dixie, It's like, okay, those are fine franchises. And then I remembered in a split second, oh yeah, the guys behind City of Ember and Bridge of Terabithia. Yeah. So for me personally, I'd say if you want to really kill an hour and 15 minutes, just rent it. And that's what I've been saying most of the summer for about 85% of these movies. Just rent them. I'm sure it'll keep the kids quiet, but other than that, it's really just about it. It's just nice designs and nice looking effects and nice performances. That's really all it is.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a faithful adaptation, go watch the 1989 animated version. I mean, that was supposed to be in theaters and it never happened.
Yeah, it was supposed to.
That really irritated me at the end.
But just at the last minute they decided it'd be better to release it as a Christmas film. I mean, it certainly got its viewing figures, I don't deny that.
Yeah.
But, you know...
I guess on the bright side we should probably talk about what happened when we saw Finding Dory earlier. Because this was interesting, because when we went to see BFG, there were all these trailers for kids' movies, and you're just sitting there going, oh yeah, storks look kind of funny. Ghostbusters. Ha! 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 And then we go to see Finding Dory this morning, and there's this whole marathon of trailers for like mature films like Bourne, Jason Bourne, Spy, Espionage, and all that sort of stuff. And I think there's like a family in the back row. And then the minute I saw the Warner Brothers logo, I started realizing, wait a minute, they're playing the wrong movie. So I stormed out of the snack bar, and I told them, you're playing the wrong movie, it's supposed to be Finding Dory! As it turns out, they were playing Central Intelligence by accident. And I remember looking over to Sarah, one of our friends we brought to Dory, and she's like, I swear to God, this has never happened in our theater.
Yeah, and to think that we'd only just remembered the news story about Finding Dory airing in another movie theatre, and they showed the trailer for Sausage Party before that.
I actually would have been... If that happened to us, I would just laugh all the way through.
I mean, granted, that is a funny trailer, but not for a little 3-year-old in the back row.
They're eating children!
Yeah, that's not the trailer though, is it? They saw the other trailer.
Yeah.
The one with the words.
There should be a t-shirt today that says, I paid a lot of money to see this movie, like I was a pathetic ticket.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice looking ticket.
Yes.
Aside from advertising Pete's Dragon. Yeah.
So what are you going to do with that? You're going to take it home and set it on fire? Dress down into your underpants and dance around it as you burn it, you know, because that's what I would do.
Yeah. Probably get rid of the evil spirits. No, it was nice seeing you, guy.
Yes. I shall now, wait, how do I get out of this place?
Oh, simple. Let me just call upon the credits. Hey, nani nani, ah-cha-cha.
Sorry, normally when I'm doing a video with Dan I do stupid noises or things just as the camera's about to go off, so that, like, you know, that Nash bit where he drops acid onto his feet, it's like at the last second before the camera goes off, like just as he's reaching over to switch it off, I would usually just do things like ah! And then it go off.
Yeah.
Off! No, off!
Alright, I'll do it.
Yeah. You okay over there? I'm fine.
Alright, Ian.
No, I do all of this stuff all the time, don't I?
Yeah.
Famous for throwing myself up, for knocking myself down.